Hello, everyone. Roy Williams here, the guru of good health, the superintendent of supplementation. Always good to talk to you, and always good to know that I've got an audience out there that has a natural tendency toward good health, and I'm talking about good natural health instead of doing it the doctor's way. Remember, one of my famous slogans is, "Are you going to be doing it God's way using His creations, or man's way using His concoctions?" For years now, America has been doing it man's way using his concoctions. So I got a statement I want to make, and I hope you'll share this with everybody you know. And this message goes out to the pharmaceutical industry, and as a result of them owning the medical profession, lock, stock, and barrel, it's going out to the medical profession too. What is the message? It's real simple. We don't trust you anymore. You know, for years, you've told us that if we would just give you enough time, you'd cure every disease known to man. I remember hearing that when I was growing up, and I'm 62 years old. We've participated in every type of fundraiser, from Cancer Walls to the American Heart Association, all the way to the Diabetes Foundation. It seems like there's another fundraiser for a different disorder every time you turn around now. As a matter of fact, they're even making up new diseases. It's insane. According to Bloomberg, prescription drug spending, listen to this, hit a new record of $425 billion in 2015. That amount, they said, is expected to hit $610 billion by 2020. So I got a question for you. Where are the cures? 73 new drugs have emerged in just the year of 2015. None of them cured a disease. Where are the cures? Specialty drug spending, they said, reached $121 billion in 2015. These are specialty drugs. You'd think that'd be a cure, right? No. Where are the cures? They're not there. By the way, $121 billion in 2015. That's up more than 15% they spent on specialty drugs in 2014. Where are the cures? $100 billion was spent in 2014 on chemotherapy treatments. Chemotherapy treatments, well, where are the cures? I keep asking. Another fact they don't want you to know is that there's a tremendous amount of doubt regarding whether chemo drugs do much good at all. Consider the words of Dr. Ralph Moss, and by the way, he's the author of his book entitled The Cancer Industry, and I quote, "In the end," he said, "there's no proof that chemotherapy actually extends life in the vast majority of cases. And this is the great lie about chemotherapy, that somehow there's a correlation between shrinking a tumor and extending the life of a patient. And I say, shame on the oncologist." According to the research of Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner of Freakonomics fame, and by the way, if you don't know what Freakonomics is, you can look it up online. He says here, these two guys say that oncologists are some of the highest paid doctors. Their average income is increasing faster than any other specialist in the medical field, and more than half their income comes from selling and administering chemotherapy. Now, a lot of you out there listening to me, you don't think of an oncologist as a salesperson. Oh, but they are not only salespeople, they use fear to sell their drugs. Now, you heard me right. Listen to this. Oncologists make a huge profit. As much as 2/3 of their entire income, in some cases, comes from the selling of chemotherapy drugs to their patients. They scare the living daylights out of them, tell them they're going to die if they don't take the drug, and then they sell them these drugs. But here's what they don't want you to know. Oncologists buy these drugs direct at wholesale prices. They buy them, in other words, direct from the pharmaceutical industry. Then they're allowed to mark those drugs up however much they want to and bill the insurance companies. This legal profiting on drugs by doctors is unique to the cancer treatment world. No other medical professional can do what they're allowed to do. They're making money off the drugs that they insist you need to take to save your life. Folks, I don't know if you understand or not, but that's a huge conflict of interest. They're selling you drugs and charging you for the privilege of putting them in your body. No other doctor on earth is allowed to do that. I want to ask you again, where are the cures? I'm here to tell you, folks, we're living in a time when you can't trust the doctors, and I'm telling the doctors, we don't trust you anymore because you are preaching what the pharmaceutical teaches, and we don't believe a word that comes out of the pharmaceutical industry's mouths anymore. Let's talk about cholesterol as just one more example. Cholesterol drugs are among the most prescribed drugs on the market today. Every year, the medical profession seems to change the level of cholesterol in the blood to determine who should be using cholesterol-lowering drugs. When they originally found out that statins, that's cholesterol-lowering drugs, by the way, would lower a person's cholesterol, they would prescribe them only if a person's cholesterol was over 280. Today, they'll prescribe statins to anyone who is diabetic, has cardiovascular issues, or has a family history of heart disease. After a few years of prescribing the drugs, they realized that only a small percentage of patients would have a cholesterol count over 280, so they decided to lower the threshold to 240. A couple of years later, they decided to lower the threshold to 180, then to 150, and now anyone with a cholesterol count of over 130 is a candidate for the prescription. According to the drug manufacturers, cholesterol is the primary reason people are having heart attacks. Therefore, all they need to do is get the medical profession to prescribe more cholesterol-lowering drugs. From 1988 through 2008, the use of statin drugs by adults 45 years of age and over increased tenfold from 2% to 25%. Where are the cures? So what that should mean, if I'm reading what they're saying right, that cholesterol drugs are designed to prevent heart disease, should there be fewer number having heart attacks? Well, listen to this. According to the CDC, that's Centers for Disease Control, in 2011 and 2012, more than one quarter, that's 27.9% of the adult population, were using cholesterol-lowering drugs. You'd think that with almost 30% of the adult population using these so-called wonder drugs, the incidence of heart attack and stroke would be going down. After all, the reason you should be taking them to lower your risk of heart attack and stroke, right? Well, I'm going to ask you again, where are the cures? Do these drugs work? Well, according to the Centers for Disease Control, a total of 481,458 Americans died of heart disease in 1994. 14 years later, in 2008, according to CardioSmart, American College of Cardiology, over 616,000 people died of heart disease. Wait a minute. By 2008, a huge amount of the adult population is taking these wonder drugs called cholesterol-lowering drugs or statin drugs. Shouldn't the number of heart attacks and strokes gone down? Well, they didn't, folks. They went from 481,000 up to 616,000 people died of heart disease in 2008. So in just 14 years, in spite of the fact that thousands of people were using statin drugs, almost 200,000 more people died of heart disease. So I ask you again, where are the cures? When you take these statistics into consideration, combine that with the possible side effects of taking a cholesterol-lowering drug, are you sure you want to participate in that therapy? We don't trust you anymore. It's that simple. According to Max News Health, a new shocking study reveals that taking statin drugs can drastically reduce your risk of surviving a heart attack. Listen, the study published in the journal Critical Care Medicine found that the lower a patient's cholesterol levels were, the higher the risk of dying during the 30-day period following a heart attack. The study found that patients with LDL cholesterol levels less than 110, that's milligrams per deciliter, or whatever how they pronounce that, and triglyceride levels of less than 62.5 were the most at risk of dying. I'm going to talk to you just a minute about another reason I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry or the American Medical Association, or in this case, the doctors themselves. I don't trust them because they have a thing out there called circle therapy. You go to your doctor because you have a bad case of osteoarthritis, let's say. Your joint's wearing out, the cartilage is wearing out, and the doctor puts you on a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And he says, you need to take this and it will ease your pain. And he's right, they do ease the pain, but they don't help you grow any cartilage. But it's not few weeks, few months later that you go to your doctor and you're saying, man, I'm having trouble with belching and burping, and I've got a lot of gas and bloated. So the doctor does some testing. He says, oh man, that drug I've got you on, is probably, that painkiller is probably giving you some digestive issues. And I notice your blood pressure's gone up too. Well, that drug can also cause high blood pressure, but that's okay, the doctor tells you. We've got drugs to help you with your digestion and drugs to help you with, yes, that's right, your blood pressure issues. So now you're on your drug for your joints, you're on your drug for your digestion, and you're on a drug for blood pressure issues. So you go ahead and you start taking those drugs too, and sure enough, they manage to get your blood pressure lowered. They manage to, to help you in other ways, maybe with your digestion and all that. But it's not too much longer than that. You go back to the doctor and say, Doc, that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug's not helping me anymore. My knee's gotten worse. Well, of course it's gotten worse. You're still wearing cartilage out. You just don't feel the pain. But those drugs continue to get weaker and weaker because your system adjusts to them. And so what do? They put you on an even more powerful, anti-inflammatory drug, and it just keeps going on. Before you know it, you've been on these drugs for about a year or two. They have to add 2 or 3 more to fight the symptoms of those drugs. It's called circle therapy. You just sit in and out of a doctor's office. Most people today over 50 years of age are on 4 or more prescription drugs, and by the time they're 70, they'll be on as many as 8 to 11. No, we don't trust you anymore. And I want to ask you again, folks, you need to be asking yourselves this. Where are the cures? But you got to know the truth, and we've got to face the truth head on and realize that only the truth will set us free. Until next time, may God bless you with abundant health.